Hey guys, it is the Rob and Mike show. We are here back again, and today we are guestless, but that's okay because I'm Rob.
And I'm Mike.
Yeah, and we are guestless for a reason because we're going to talk about something that's impacted our lives, and I'm sure a lot of people's lives with disabilities. That is the subject of dating. Okay, and dating with a disability, I don't think is really that big of a deal or a huge obstacle or anything that you got to be afraid of. I think it really starts, and this is true for people with disabilities, whether it's physical, mental, or the able-bodied for that matter. I think the better your self-esteem, the better you're going to do in the world of dating. Okay, and it's not, this isn't rocket science. Okay, it's just you have to work to make yourself feel good about you. Okay, and unfortunately, in the world of disabilities, a lot of people have self-esteem issues. Okay, either because maybe they haven't adjusted to their disability, or they've spent many years or whatever being told that they can't do this and they can't do that. Okay, and they don't feel worthy, or they don't feel like they have enough to offer out there in order to be worthy of someone's love.
Right. Okay. You're 100% right. Self-esteem, along that line, the same thing is having some confidence.
That's right.
Have the confidence to be yourself, to go, to approach somebody, to ask them out. And I think another thing that goes along with that is, confidence is key to me. But another thing that is major is communication.
Yes.
Yes. You need to communicate. There's no shame in talking about your disability with somebody, because people inherently want to learn. And they want to learn about you. There's a stigma, it's a terrible stigma. People with disabilities are broken. We're not broken. There's a difference, but we're not broken. And I think sometimes people look at that, and once you get over that hump, I'll tell you, when I first got out of the hospital, I thought, I think a lot of people think, never going to date, nobody's ever going to want me, I'm going to be single the rest of my life. Yeah. And then the more you go on, the more your confidence grows, your self-esteem gets better.
Sure.
You start talking about yourself a little bit more, start educating people a little bit more about living with a disability. There's going to be situations where people go on a date. Say for us, we're in a wheelchair and we want to sit in a booth. I read this recently, so I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
And the first time that date of yours sees you maybe struggling to transfer out of your wheelchair into a booth, you need to let them know ahead of time. Hey, listen, here's what I'm going to do, and this is what it's going to look like. So,
sure.
It's just one of those things. It's part of our life now, and I think it's part of everybody's life with a disability, that there's going to be some obstacle or difficulty that we have to overcome, and that's what we've been doing, for as long as, at least for me, it's for 33 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up communication, because I learned a hard lesson about this when I was dating my ex-wife. She didn't have a clue about disability. She'd never dated anyone in a wheelchair or anyone with any kind of disability. And at the time, I had resigned myself to the fact that I was going to live alone the rest of my life. And for me, at that time, it was okay. And then Julie came along and all of a sudden turned everything upside down. And I'm in my mid-40s. And she didn't know anything about a spinal cord injury. And I was afraid to tell her the dark side of a spinal cord injury, what can happen to us, okay? And sex and all of that kind of thing. Yep. And so we ended up getting together, we got married, and all those things that I didn't tell her about came back to bite me later. We ended up getting divorced 7 years later. So if I had to do it all over again, I would definitely be up front and say, look, here's how it is. It isn't always pretty. Right. If you can't handle it, tell me now.
We want to know ahead of time.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
You said, there are some things like you said, the dark side, of
Limitations,
the limitations that you have. Where if you get that, if you communicate that with the potential partner that you're going to be with ahead of time, they're going to know here's what things are going to look like moving forward.
Sure.
Whereas if they have to find these things out, now all of a sudden they're questioning what I get into, what is this?
Well, that's right. Yeah.
And that's when that stuff happens.
And you could say, well, why didn't she ask you if she had questions? Well, in my opinion, I think it's our responsibility to educate the person in case they had no idea what's going on.
I totally agree, because when you look at it, like you said, whichever, I can't remember what you said, but they didn't know anything about dating somebody with a spinal cord injury or in a wheelchair. How could they? Why would they? Why would they know that?
Well,
unless they had dated somebody in the past.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Anybody, maybe up to you who's never dated somebody with a spinal cord injury or with a disability in general, they're not going to know what questions to ask. And that's why what you're saying is accurate. It's up to the person with the disability to relay that message, to say, hey, here's what our life is going to look like. If we get together, we stick through this thing, and we ultimately get married, here's what it's going to look like. I don't know that I did that with my now ex-wife. We were married 15 years, and they were 15 great years. But eventually, just we're great friends now. It just kind of ran out. Our time ran out, and I don't think it had anything to do with not telling her what the disability was about. But it's
okay.
Things happen. Life goes on. How many people? I think about more than half the population nowadays gets divorced anyway. So it's not somebody without a disability divorcing somebody with a disability because they have the disability.
Well, the statistics are kind of interesting. The divorce rate is much higher in our case, and I think in general, if the disability happens after the marriage. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
One of the things I was going to bring up was it amazes. It doesn't amaze me, but the amount of articles I've read, people I've spoken with over the years, of people who were dating and then so I wasn't dating anybody at the time of my accident, but the amount of people who break up with the person who did not acquire the disability breaks up with the person because they can't handle it.
Right.
They just can't handle that situation at the time. And part of me says I understand that, because that's you're throwing a curveball at that person. Think about, especially for males with disability who are dating. When we're looking at college age, high school, well, probably out of high school, college age girls, maybe just out of college, what are they looking for? They're looking for a protector, and they're looking for somebody who's going to father their children. So they want that big, strong, physical presence. I know I'm not giving that to them.
Yeah,
I'm not really able to protect in the sense of I can get up and fight somebody, hand to hand.
Right.
I'm not gonna,
True.
Any intruder coming in the house, I'm not going to fight that person. If I was fortunate enough to have had kids, I'm not really out there playing basketball with them or playing ball with them. I'm not doing those things that a typical the father is going to be doing with those kids. And I think a lot of women are looking for that. And that's what puts us behind the 8 ball to begin with.
True.
There's a lot of things that do, but that's all comes full circle back to what you said, self-esteem.
That's right.
I look at myself. I say, hey, I think I'm pretty good looking. I think I communicate well. I think any girl who I meet and I think I would like to date her, and she shows some interest, go talk to her. That's what it comes down to. And so self-esteem, communication. Go talk to people. That's the only way you're going to find out.
And we were talking about perceptions, and I think that there's a perception, it's a pretty stubborn one, and I think the reason it's a stubborn one is because certain people with disabilities sort of reinforce it, that the able-bodied, certain elements of the able-bodied population see us as needy, and we're desperate for love. Okay, don't smile at him too much, because he'll fall in love with you.
Right.
And I see this all the time. It drives me nuts. But there are many people with disabilities, okay, regardless of what the disability is, they just want love because they're lonely. And everybody wants love.
Everybody.
Okay?
It's something we all desire.
But you can't want it in order to complete yourself, to make you feel like a better person. Okay,
Right.
and that desperation is something that it's a real turnoff. Okay,
I agree.
and again, it comes back to self-esteem. How much are you doing in the world? And I'm not talking about necessarily, you have a full-time job, okay? But a lot of people with disabilities don't, and that's okay, okay? But if you're contributing to the world and you're feeling good about what you're doing and getting out there, there's a lot of people, I can tell you too many stories of people with disabilities who they want somebody so bad, and yet they're doing nothing with their lives except watching TV.
Right. You just said
And
the key phrase, getting out there.
That's right.
For me, we live in Erie, and snow stops us. Snow slows us down.
It
doesn't
does.
stop us.
Yeah.
It slows us down. But that never stops me from doing things. I am, I'm not going out. When I play bocce at the Nova Aurora Club 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
With my friends. I'm going out. I'm not there looking for a date. I'm not there looking for a partner or a wife or whatever. I'm going out and I'm seen, and people see, hey, he's active. He's not. Somebody who you're going to date doesn't want to see somebody who's just that couch potato,
Right,
sitting in front of the TV all day. They want to see somebody who gets out, who is active,
Sure.
who does things. It doesn't have to necessarily be productive in terms of being a member of society, productive member of society, but don't just be a bump on the block.
Right.
That's not really that's not in the dating world. That's not telling somebody I want to be with that guy.
Yeah.
I want to be with that girl.
Exactly. And I think the more you do to bust some of those stereotypes, the more attractive you're going to be to a prospective partner.
1,000%.
Because they see, oh yeah, okay, that's not quite like I do stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
How many people with wheelchairs do stand-up comedy? How many people with disabilities in general do it? I don't know very many. I know a couple that have made it kind of big.
Right.
Okay, one guy named Alex Valdez, he's blind, and he comes out on stage. What a great looking audience, and the guy's great, and a couple other people, but it's an area where you just don't see, and it projects confidence.
Yes.
Okay, I met Julie when I was doing a theater production. I started my own theater called the United We Stand Theater Troupe, and we were doing a production, and I was in the production. I had written it, and that's how she and I met, because she thought, wow, that's pretty cool that he's doing that kind of thing. She admitted to me later. Okay, but that's the thing. The more opportunities you create for yourself, the better chance you're going to have. Because if you're just desperate and you're going to try too hard, and that happens all the time. You're going to try too hard, and you're going to turn the person off.
I know a lot of people who are not somebody with a disability who try way too hard.
Oh sure, no question about it.
And they're a major, major turnoff.
Yeah.
To the other person.
Because it's like, why is that person trying so hard?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them? Or
one thing I've learned that goes along with everything we've said here, with being a good communicator, with having some confidence and self-esteem, is just be yourself.
That's right.
I think that's what it all comes down to. Be yourself. Show the other person who you are and what you can offer.
Be genuine.
And be genuine. That's
because
really what it comes down to.
Because I'm extremely good looking. Okay, and it's not going to last forever.
I got a couple of years left.
No, seriously, youth and looks obviously are fleeting. Okay, the stuff that makes a relationship really last is in here.
Right.
Okay, and whether you have a disability or not, that's true. Okay, so there's no magic formula for it. It's just you have to believe in yourself. And I think a lot of people with disabilities have to try a little harder maybe to gain that self-esteem that it takes to be ready for a relationship. But that doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right. Sometimes it takes time.
That's right.
Like I said earlier, when I first had my accident, None. I had none. No self-esteem. You know, people are going to see me in a wheelchair. What is the first thing that's going to go through their mind? Girls are never going to want to date me. And then as you
pity,
grow,
whatever,
it's all a pity party, whatever. And then you finally start accepting things, and you say, hey, wait a minute. I'm doing everything I used to do except walking.
Right.
For somebody in a wheelchair. So, you know, what's different about me other than that?
Well, I came to the conclusion that, you know, if I want to date somebody and they can't handle the chair, okay, basically the chair weeds out the people who don't belong in my life anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never really thought about it that way.
Well, it took me a long time to come to that conclusion, believe me.
Yeah, I've had some people who they, you know, you smile at them, they look at you and walk right by.
Yeah.
And you're right, those are the ones you don't need them.
Yeah.
And I've had other ones, and I know this is a no-no for, you know, people out there who are watching this in wheelchairs probably gonna say, God, no. I've had girls who've come up and sat on my lap, and I'm not gonna say no to that.
Well, why would it? Why would you say no to it? I'm not
People always say they don't want, you know, don't use a wheelchair as a seat all the time. Hey, listen, if a pretty girl's gonna come up and sit on my lap.
Depends on what she looks like. I mean, you know.
I think she's attractive. You might not think she's attractive. I think she's attractive. Really, you know, it all comes down to beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right?
That's right. That's right. But so we're here to tell you today, folks, dating with a disability, it's not like the quadratic formula. There's no step-by-step analysis or anything like that. It's just realize that you're a valuable person and go out there and do stuff, okay? And in doing that and contributing to society, whatever that means for you, okay, do some good things, and you're going to open yourself up to opportunities, and pretty soon you'll be in that relationship.
Yes, dating is for everybody.
That's right.
It's not for a select few people.
There you go.
It's for everybody. And if that's something that is going to make you happy, then make yourself happy and go find the person who's right for you.
There you go. I am Rob.
And I'm Mike.
And we will see you next time.
Yes, we will. Have a great beginning of the summer.
All right, you too. Should have said you too.
Stop recording. That end of